Jeremy Soule. I feel like he doesn't really need an introduction, especially if you're already a fan of the Elder Scrolls series. Many of you are very familiar with some of his most iconic works, from Dragonborn to Harvest Dawn.
See you. You too. Hail.
And Peaceful Waters.
Sorry, stranger. My time is short, so...
He's definitely been one of the key players in the memorability of the Elder Scrolls games, whether that be from the relaxing soundtracks, to memes,
I think it's disgusting that you're working at this time on a Sunday. Have you got nothing better to do?
or the iconic and distinctly memorable melodies and motifs in his music. But what happens when everyone knows where to find your music but doesn't know where to find you? This is the story of the downfall and disappearance of Jeremy Soule. Hi everyone, I'm Azura. I'm just some random person who loves the Elder Scrolls, has a YouTube channel, and has incredibly mediocre video editing skills. Today I wanted to cover a very uncommon topic and a very controversial one at that. If you've seen some of my other videos, you might have noticed I'm not in my regular outfit today, and that's kind of because the topic that I'm covering is a little bit more serious and it's not as lighthearted and fun as I would have liked it to be. I want to get this out of the way before we start. Some of the subject matter in this video is going to cover some very serious real-life topics, and some will involve mentions of sexual assault and abuse. If you are somebody who is sensitive to that, I would probably give this video a pass, but I will also be putting timestamps and warnings just in case you want to skip that part. I also want to mention that I will be approaching this video with a very neutral lens, and that's because I just want to report on what has happened and the facts and everything that I have found, and I don't really want to interject my opinion or speculation into this video. Also, YouTube probably isn't going to like this video very much because of what I'm talking about, so if you want to leave some support, please be sure to like and subscribe. Also, I just want to apologize because if it looks like I'm reading off a script, that's because I am. I dare you guys to memorize 16 pages of words, but yeah, I just wanted to get that out of the way, you know, before we start. Jeremy Soule was born in Keokuk, Iowa on December 19th, 1975. He was born into what appears to be a very artistic family, with his father being a music teacher and his mother being a graphic designer. He has a brother, Julian, who also composes music for video games. Jeremy seems to be very close with his brother, as you will soon find out. Jeremy seemed to have had a passion for music at a very young age, and started his musical journey almost from birth, and later taking up piano lessons from professors at the Western Illinois University in the 6th grade, and he claims that he had the equivalent of a master's degree in composition before even graduating high school. He wanted to achieve the goal of becoming a concert pianist and composer, however decided to go down the path of being a composer as he could not dedicate enough time to both. Jeremy was very fond of video games growing up and observed how much of an impact music had on the enjoyment, quality, and engagement of the games that he played. This interest from an early age clearly influenced his path later in life, as he started to make a name for himself by breaking into the industry with the work that he did for the Japanese game studio Square, which most notably developed the first 5 Final Fantasy games before merging to become Square Enix. Jeremy composed the soundtrack for Secret of Evermore, and then went on to do scores for various children's games, including Putt Putt, Pajama Sam, and Freddy Fish. And yes, I mean those children's games that you probably played back in kindergarten. I don't know about you guys, but I really fucked with that shit back in the day. In later years, he moved on to create the soundtracks for the Harry Potter games, Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance, and a handful of other action-adventure games. Jeremy's success continued to grow, with the soundtrack of Morrowind winning him his second Academy Award, and the Oblivion soundtrack being nominated for and winning multiple awards. Jeremy also composed the soundtracks for Guild Wars, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, and Warhammer 40k Dawn of War around the same time. Also around this time in 2005, Jeremy and Julian started a website and company called DirectSong, which sold DRM-free downloads and hard copies of Jeremy's own compositions. This website was allegedly very successful according to Soule, however, we will go into the details a little bit later. Success after success, Jeremy's popularity continued to skyrocket, and with the release of Skyrim and Guild Wars 2 in the early 2010s, Jeremy Soule almost became a household name. He probably is one of the most well-known video game composers of his time. He started a Kickstarter in 2013 to raise money for an album that he wanted to create called The Northerner. This was going to be a classical music composition featuring vocals in Old Norse. Originally, the goal for the Kickstarter was about $10,000, but he managed to raise $121,227 by the end. In the meantime, Jeremy was hard at work composing music with his brother for other games such as Dota 2. Everything seemed to be going great for Jeremy, but in 2019 he disappeared. Vanished. All of his social media, all of his presence in the outside world had just disappeared. You can't find anything about him now. What could have caused such a successful man with huge notoriety and following just to vanish? Well, let's start at the beginning. Again. Remember how I mentioned that Jeremy started a music vendor in 2005 with his brother Julian? Well, as much as Jeremy would like us to believe that this website was more popular than iTunes and some other large music vendors out there at the time, DirectSong had a worse reputation than Jeremy would like to admit. Let's jump back to the early 2010s, sometime between 2013 and 2015. Jeremy was someone who was very anti-piracy. He was very vocal about how detrimental piracy is to the author, the artist, and creator of the work. From my understanding, Jeremy began only selling physical copies of his work. While DirectSong was presumably used to sell music from different composers and artists, Jeremy used it as the only place where you could purchase his music. Jeremy was so anti-piracy, in fact, that he compared piracy to the Holocaust. In a now deleted quote from a WordPress post, which I could only find on Reddit and through web archival, he stated, "But forget the Pirate Bay. Piracy is now mainstream. Not since the Holocaust have we seen so many people of a select group forcibly stripped of their livelihoods and a public euphoria of false morals. As one who is of Jewish descent, I can say that I make this statement in a very narrow fashion, but there are similarities. Creators are being vilified, laughed off, and treated with indifference by scary multitudes of people who care not for artists' lives or liberties, let alone the concerns involved in the making of art. The new norm is being heralded as liberation from the contrived and unfair standards of fees and payments that have traditionally been worked out in a fair market society. Instead, this is the new unfair market society. The Jews, in this valid analogy, are creators. We are losing our homes, our futures, and our ability to take care of our children. Laugh, I dare you, and unlike the street lamplighters, the world still needs creators." I feel like it's worth noting that it was incredibly hard finding the original source of this quote, as Jeremy or someone else seems to have forcibly removed his WordPress from web archives and the Wayback Machine. This may be because the statement was not received well by many people, and possibly along with other things he said on there. On top of making such a bold statement, DirectSong was failing to directly get songs to their paying customers. The vendor was getting one bad review after another, and this was because they were failing to deliver. Literally. Many customers were waiting months or longer for their orders to arrive, if they were even fortunate enough to get it. Many did not receive their order, they requested a refund, and they didn't get one for months or at all in some cases. This resulted in DirectSong getting a rating of 0.17 out of 10, or an F, on the Better Business Bureau. This is the lowest possible rating that you can get. Many fans of Soule's music who had tried to purchase things from DirectSong started taking to the internet to call it out as a scam. Some people were even unable to contact customer support and get a refund, and in an almost ironic turn of events, Some people on the internet were saying just to torrent or illegally download the music because that way they will actually get what they want. Kind of ironic, huh? Many of these issues came to light when Guild Wars 2 players were trying to get their hands on a physical copy of the game soundtrack. And there were actually threats of a class action lawsuit against DirectSong and Jeremy and Julian from the Guild Wars 2 community. I don't believe any action was actually taken against them, however, and it's uncertain how many of these people actually received their products or their refunds. I'm under the impression that all these issues around orders, deliveries, and refunds were a long-standing issue with DirectSong for many years, prior to the complaints and legal threats from the Guild Wars 2 community. There were cases where customers had to wait 4 years to receive their products, and from what I found, these were issues since the website's launch in 2005. DirectSong seems to have been shut down some point in the late 2010s, around 2018. It appears that Jeremy was now offering digital downloads of his music for purchase by this point, before it shut down completely. You can still find his music on iTunes, Amazon Music, and streamable on Spotify. So while all this DirectSong drama seemed to be happening around 2013, Jeremy was very busy setting up his Kickstarter for his upcoming album, The Northerner, Soule Symphony No. 1. He was trying to raise money so he could record a new album that was going to be a classical symphony composition with lyrics in Old Norse. Maluka was allegedly going to be doing some vocals for it as he had worked with her in the past. He was working with the record label Materia Collective, a self-described boutique soundtrack label, to publish and distribute it. He announced the Kickstarter in March of 2013 with the original goal of $10,000. This money was going to be used to produce and publish the album, as well as develop software and other tools to help him in the composition. The Kickstarter ended up raising about 12 times of the original goal, raising a total of $121,227. The project was backed by over 4,000 people, as many fans were very willing to support his project and were very excited to hear his new music. A few months after it was launched, Jeremy had started working on the album, and would give somewhat regular updates to his backers. He stated that all the writing of the 4 movements were almost done, and they would be recording in September of 2013. Later in the year, he stated that there would be some delays due to scheduling due to collaborators on his project. It did not release in 2013. In 2014, Jeremy announced that he would be expanding the size of the album from 4 movements to 12. He had posted sporadic updates when people started questioning him, in which some of the updates included pictures of a few vacations that he had taken for inspiration. At this point, backers had already begun criticizing him, and they were wondering why it was taking so long, and if their money had started funding his vacations. Jeremy had been traveling the world, and upon his return, he said he was going to start recording the album in November of 2014. November rolled around and Jeremy gave another update. The album had not yet been recorded, and he decided he's now expanding the project from not 1 album, but to 2. He also announced that he would be recording in Iceland, as he saw it as more fitting. He also had a side venture with his brother that he had taken up, which was developing instrument software under the company Roland Virtual Sonics. Jeremy and Julian had worked with developers to create Roland Cloud, which is still used by producers and composers to this day. According to them, it's an evolving cloud-based suite of software synthesizers, drum machines, and sampled instruments for modern creators. Jeremy's Kickstarter backers were starting to worry that their money was going to the creation of Roland Cloud, but Jeremy assured them in another update this was not the case. Also, there will be a little bit more on Roland Cloud later in the video. In 2016, he announced that the release of the album was now going to be pushed back to 2017, and started offering refunds to backers who no longer wanted to support him. Many of the comments on this post expressed people's frustration, and people started calling him a fraud and a scam artist. While Jeremy was looking to the north, things just seemed to keep going south. It was allegedly very difficult for backers to get the money that they pledged to him. Many backers did not hear anything from Jeremy's management for months, with one backer telling a journalist at VG247, "I pledged $100 plus shipping to get a signed copy of this CD. I requested my refund a few months after it was possible, and after much prodding, I received it a few months after that. I gave up on waiting." He continually posted about work that was ongoing with the deadlines that subsequently passed. In another statement to VG247, Jeremy claimed that only 2% of backers of his project requested a refund, with many still happy to support him despite the mass outrage in the Kickstarter comments. At that time, only one of the 5 backers who pledged $1,500 had requested a refund. It is also alleged that some people were considering taking legal action against Soule, but that appears not to have come to fruition. The alleged release date in 2017 came and went, with no updates on the Kickstarter and no album was dropped. Many backers had still not received their refunds, and the outrage over the Kickstarter seemed to have gained mainstream traction. Media outlets started writing articles on Jeremy and the Northerner, and within mere days after these articles were published, the silence was broken. Jeremy released some musical sketches, whatever that's supposed to mean, at the end of 2017, which should have been available for his backers to download. I say should have been because apparently many backers couldn't even download these songs. Many people resorted to sharing the songs amongst themselves via email or through other means, which is a little ironic to me as Jeremy seems to have a reputation for being so anti-piracy, but ends up having his music downloaded illegitimately because fans don't receive what they paid for. It seems that these musical sketches are also available for free on YouTube and Spotify, which again adds another layer of irony. Things were pretty quiet through 2018, and in January of 2019, the release dates of the 2 albums were announced. The first album would be released in March of 2019, and the second in December of 2019. They promised the albums would be available for download on these dates for all backers, and that physical copies would be signed and shipped accordingly. To no one's surprise, these dates came and went, with not a single peep from Jeremy or his management. Since then, there's only been 3 backer-only updates, and from what I can tell, they are 2 single releases from the first album that Jeremy had planned on releasing. These are 2 4-minute songs, which are available on Spotify and other platforms as well. The last update on the Kickstarter was February of 2020, and everything has been silent for the past 4 years. Judging from comments on the Kickstarter page, supporters are incredibly frustrated and they seem to check in regularly still to see if there's any updates. The only work that he's shown for this time is an incomplete concept album, which is not even what the actual release is supposed to sound like, and 2 singles. All in all, not much has resulted from this Kickstarter, and Jeremy's backers have no idea where that $120,000 went. It's been almost 11 years total, and basically nothing has resulted from this project, and Jeremy has disappeared off the face of the earth. I know I said I was going to try avoid making assumptions and inserting my own opinion into this video, but I have a very strong feeling many of these backers will not see a completed album, or maybe even their money again. I'd be really curious to hear if any of you watching this have pledged money to this project, and if you've requested a refund or gotten one, so please do tell me in the comments. Now let's take a short detour and move back to the topic of Roland Cloud. Like I just mentioned, it is a now cloud-based software used for composing music. From my understanding, and trust me, I have very little understanding because I know absolutely nothing about making music, it is a cloud database of instruments, synths, and other music-related things to be used for professional composition. It is a subscription-based model with monthly subscriptions starting from $2.99 a month to $19.99 a month. There are additional packages that you can purchase too for varying prices. You can also get lifetime keys for various products too. Wait, why am I even telling you guys this? Like, it's not like I'm trying to make a sales pitch or anything. Anyways, there isn't a whole lot of information I found on Roland Cloud, and from what I did find, there's been quite a few criticisms from customers. Not really surprising at this point, is it? The first criticism I could find was the move to the subscription-based model. Many users were very frustrated with this, but there were some issues around the actual product itself as well. One Reddit user explained how they were promised lifetime access to some products they received via a promotion, and subsequently had their access to them revoked. Upon contacting support and showing them evidence that the promotion did exist, Roland Cloud denied it and would not give this person access back to them, despite them having purchased them in the first place. Multiple other Reddit users had the exact same experience and claimed that customer support was incredibly difficult to work with. Upon reading other various threads and forum posts, the general consensus I discovered was that people were not happy with Jeremy's company and their customer support. Some people were actually warning others about it due to the past issues with DirectSong and Jeremy's Kickstarter project. Slightly unrelated, but one forum user who was trying to warn others about Roland Cloud also pointed out that Jeremy had deleted every account of his off the internet except his Patreon. They pointed out that it has been long abandoned, and from my research I found that he was still making money from his patrons in late 2021, and then it was shut down between then and 2023. And back on the topic of Roland Cloud, I am totally aware that obviously Jeremy is not the only person running this company, and he obviously doesn't deal with customer support directly. He is not responsible for these issues that customers have had. However, with Jeremy and Julian both being co-directors of the company, it's still not a good look for them, and seeing their history with this stuff already. Have you guys noticed that there seems to be a pattern with anything that these two are involved with? Another little side note before we move on to the more serious stuff. Back in 2016, Jeremy tried to take a swing at Bethesda because they did not invite him to participate in Skyrim in Concert, a concert that was organized to celebrate the release of Skyrim Special Edition. In a now deleted Facebook post, obviously because he's nuked all of his social media, he expressed frustration upon hearing the concert announcement. He apparently had never been informed of it before the announcement and was not invited to participate in it. The reason remains unknown to everyone, and I'm not going to make any speculations as to why Bethesda would exclude him from it. He was angry because they were transcripting his work, and however, the music played in the concert was not a one-to-one of his work, and this was intentional by Bethesda. Jeremy called it inauthentic and motioned fans not to support or attend the concert. He saw the whole ordeal as a huge insult to him personally. Alright, before we move on to the next section, I want to make something abundantly clear. This will be a complete account of all information that we currently have access to and will include statements and recounts from those involved. In saying that, there will be allegations which have not been proven nor disproven, and I'm leaving it to you to use your own intuition and form your own thoughts and opinions on the situation. And with that being said, there are some very serious topics in this next section, and I will be mentioning assault and rape. So if you are someone who is sensitive to that sort of stuff, I will leave the timestamp on the screen now so you can skip ahead. Hey guys, I just wanted to make it really clear that everything already discussed in this video happened prior to what we're about to discuss. I just wanted to make it really clear that there has already been issues and drama before all of this stuff happened as well. So I assume many of you are very familiar with the allegations made against Jeremy by multiple women. It is by far his most infamous scandal out of everything that we've already discussed. Since we're going over his scandals in chronological order, this will be the last one that we cover, and some people attribute these allegations directly to his disappearance and the end of his career. In August of 2019, more specifically August 26th, a game developer named Natalie Lawhead made a post on her blog detailing the abuse from Jeremy when she worked in a small indie game studio. She decided to call out his actions and behavior to ensure other women would not suffer at his hands. She explained that she was hired to work on an ARG by a company in Vancouver in November of 2008. She said that she took the job because she was hoping it would be her big break into the gaming industry. She said that Jeremy knew that she needed this job and she would fear speaking out at the time, and he took advantage of this. Natalie met Jeremy at a company Christmas party in December as Jeremy was close friends with her boss, and she said that they bonded over their love for arts and creativity. They apparently quickly became friends, and Jeremy took up the role of mentor to Natalie. She would often express her frustrations and concerns about the position that she was in with her job and in the video game industry, and he knew how desperate she was to succeed. She said they started hanging out on weekends and that she made it abundantly clear that it was just a friendship between the two of them. She said she'd never reach out to him first, and he would always come up with projects or excuses to hang out with Natalie and invite her out for dinner and the likes. She realizes now how naive she was at the time and did not understand that Jeremy was trying to make advances. She said a constant topic of discussion for Jeremy was expressing his dissatisfaction with women and the past relationships that he's had. He would constantly complain about the women who have wronged him in the past. Things started becoming uncomfortable for Natalie, and she felt that she could not reject his advances in fear of losing her job. The things Jeremy would tell her were becoming more and more explicit, as he expressed to her that he needs women to inspire him, and that writing and composing music is inherently sexual. At this point, she felt very afraid of rejecting him, even though she continuously told him that she's not interested in a relationship, only friendship. He eventually got fed up and told her that it's him or bust, and he raped her. In an interview with Kotaku, she explained that it happened in 2009 at his house one evening when they were hanging out. He was interrogating her on why she didn't want to have sex with him, and he kept trying to make physical advances. She kept telling him no, but he ended up forcing himself onto her, which caused her to freeze up. She did not know what to do at the time, and she was very scared and confused. She did not want to come forward about it because she feared what the repercussions would be for her career. She also told Kotaku that she didn't go to the Vancouver police immediately, and it's unclear if there was an investigation or not. She continued to go to work and said that she would cry in the bathroom on her breaks, but she tried pushing ahead anyways. Apparently, Jeremy would come visit the office that she worked in quite frequently after this. She remained friends with him after the whole ordeal because she was afraid of the fallout, and she had no one to turn to as she was living in a foreign country at the time. She ended up moving back to California for a bit, but Jeremy reached out to her for assistance in designing a website for him. She ended up doing the work, however there were issues with receiving payment for it. After 30 days of being ghosted, Natalie reached out to Jeremy, Julian, and the artist that they were designing the website for. After a long back and forth, Julian finally ended up paying Natalie for her work. She stated that she believes that by finally standing up for herself against Jeremy, it might have been partially responsible for costing her her job at the game company that she was working with. In the end, she was dropped from the game a little while later and was not paid the final invoice for her work there as well. Her blog post is about a mile long, detailing all the other issues that she had when she was working at this company along with some screenshots. However, I will not touch on it as it's not relevant to the situation with Jeremy. It's unclear if any legal action was taken against Jeremy, as these allegations have come out about 11 years after it actually happened. About a day after Natalie published her blog post, on August 28th, a vocalist who also works in the video game industry and with Jeremy came forward to tell her story. Airlie Brighton detailed her experience in a Facebook post and in an interview with Kotaku as well. She said in her post that she also fell victim to Jeremy's predatory nature in 2014, and that Jeremy sexually harassed her and emotionally violated her. She stated that the abuse was not physical in nature, but he made unwelcome advances and sent her explicit videos of himself. She said that she met Jeremy in 2014 when she moved to California and was living out of her car, looking for work. She was introduced to him by a mutual friend, and she was very excited for this opportunity. Airlie said she looked up to Jeremy as an idol, as Skyrim and his music shaped her early gaming days. Jeremy started to offer her work and even invited her to work on his Northern Lights Symphony and feature in music videos. She said that the relationship between them was strictly professional, and it started to turn weird after he told her that she needed to lose weight. At the time, she was in awe that he was paying attention to her and continued to listen to his advice. According to transcripts and messages between Airlie and Jeremy shown to Kotaku, their conversations had started becoming flirty, and Jeremy would invite Airlie over to his house late in the night to work on recordings and vocals. She started becoming uncomfortable with his behavior, however, as he started bashing women and talking about how many women want to have sex with him. After this, she started to deny his advances, but he ended up sending her an explicit video of himself. She said she was disgusted. After reaching out to other female vocalists who had worked with Jeremy, she learned that he was sexually inappropriate with other women too, and she decided she wanted nothing to do with him. Airlie was eventually dropped from the project for declining his advances. Apparently, Kotaku had attempted to reach out to other women who had worked with Jeremy and had dealt with his inappropriate actions, however, none of them wanted to speak on the record about it. It's unclear how many other women have been harassed by him. Jeremy had responded to both of these allegations by denying them and saying that they are outrageous, and on the topic of Natalie, he apparently does not believe her point of view. He told Kotaku that these 11-year-old allegations are false. I am shocked and saddened by the outrageous claims that have been made. After these accusations came out, the company that was working with Jeremy on its Kickstarter project, Materia Collective, also announced that they would be terminating their relationship with Jeremy. They said that in a tweet, they are no longer involved in any aspect of it. Very quickly after these accusations dropped, Jeremy deleted all of his social media and vanished off the face of the earth. Airlie made a note of this on her Facebook post and stated that she finds it hard to believe that anybody who has nothing to hide would disappear from social media entirely minus a blank Instagram account. This seems to have marked the end for Jeremy, as no one's heard anything from him since. As I mentioned previously, his Patreon was still taking donations until sometime between 2021 and 2023, according to captures from the Wayback Machine. All of his social media has been deleted, and his website has been taken down. The only thing that you can find now is his Kickstarter for The Northerner. And again, like I mentioned before, Jeremy or somebody else seems to have wiped his WordPress completely from the Wayback Machine. As a result of all this drama and his disappearance, many fans of the Elder Scrolls franchise assume that he will not be returning for Elder Scrolls 6. However, before all of these allegations came out against him, Jeremy stated in January of 2019 that he had not been asked to return to compose music for The Elder Scrolls 6. It's unclear as to why this is the case. Some fans have stated that Bethesda will probably never work with him again due to the allegations, and it would be a PR nightmare. Other fans have stated that since these have just been allegations and there's no legal case that has been held against him, to our knowledge, he should be invited back for The Elder Scrolls 6. So, where are we now? 5 years after his disappearance, Jeremy has still not been seen nor heard from by anyone. From my research, I can assume that he's still involved with Roland Cloud, and he has only ever released those 2 singles on his Kickstarter. I'm not sure if we'll ever see Jeremy again, especially after all the scandals that he's been involved with. Now, on a side note, while I stated that I wasn't going to be interjecting my own opinion into this video, I just wanted to say I had absolutely no idea how deep the rabbit hole went for this whole thing before I started working on this project. I'm not someone who ever followed Jeremy Soule closely, but I always loved the music that he made for the Elder Scrolls games. I mean, I even used a lot of his music in my previous videos. This project became huge, like larger than I would have ever imagined. The only thing I knew about Jeremy was the misconduct allegations, and I assumed that was why he disappeared. It was absolutely crazy to learn about all the other stuff that he did in the past even before that, like the issues with DirectSong, his Kickstarter project, and all the other companies that he's worked with in the past. I actually had a lot of fun doing research for this video, and a lot of information was very difficult to find without doing some digging. I want to give a shout out to the Internet Archive and the Wayback Machine, because without it, I honestly would not have some of this information that's available today. And now, with knowing all of the information that I now know, I can honestly say that I have a very different impression and feeling when listening to soundtracks for the Elder Scrolls games. After learning all of this stuff, I can't help but be reminded of it when I play Elder Scrolls games. It leaves a sour taste in my mouth almost, and it's really not a nice feeling. I don't think I'll ever be able to look at his music the same ever again. I want to know how all of you guys feel about this now. Are you glad that you learned everything you did, or did this ruin the way that you look at all the soundtracks that Jeremy has worked on? Do you feel indifferent even? Like, please just let me know in the comments. And with all of that being said, I want to thank you all for watching, especially if you got this far. I had no idea that this video was going to be as long as it was. I also know that since I talked about some no-no topics, YouTube will probably not like this video, so if you could please leave a like or subscribe just to show some support, it means a lot and it does help this video gain some traction. As always, all sources are in the description, and trust me, there are a lot of sources for this one. I also want to mention that I have a Discord server now, the link is below, as well as the link to my Twitter if you want to follow me over there. So thank you for watching guys, and have a good one. And he claims that he has an equivalent of the Masters fucking sword and board. Too bad I can't put bloopers in this one. It's a serious video. Jeremy was very busy setting up his Kickstarter for his upcoming album, The Northerner, Soul Sympathy. Northern Soul Symphony. Jeremy announced that he would be releasing some musical Her blog post is about a mile long, detailing all the I just give up.